pledge.
You want to put
It's behind you. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. The first item on the agenda is I'm going to swear in our newly elected board members. I'm going to start with Bob. Do a little different this year. I'll sit here and I'll read it to you, and then if you would get up and sign it after. Okay? If you just repeat after me. I, Robert DeBrucker, do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of New York, and that I will faithfully discharge the duties of Office of Trustee of the Avon Central School Board of Education according to the best of my ability. Great. If you wouldn't mind, I have it marked right up in the book, and you should be the first one where the sticker is, Bob, on the top page. Think about, I'll sign all of them after. I'll bring it over to you. So please repeat after me. I, Rodney George.
I, Rodney George,
Do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution
that I will support the Constitution
of the United States
of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of New York,
and the Constitution of the State of New York,
and that I will faithfully discharge the duties
and I will faithfully discharge the duties
of Office of Trustee
of Office of Trustee
of the Avon Central School Board of Education
of the Avon Central School Board of Education
according to the best of my ability.
according to the best of my ability. Perfect. So, that's going hard. Figure.
Yes. I, Ryan Pichetti,
I, Ryan Kelly,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution
that I will support the Constitution
of the United States
of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of New York,
and the Constitution of the State of New York,
and that I will faithfully discharge the duties
and that I will faithfully discharge the duties
of Superintendent of the Avon Central School District
of Superintendent of the Avon School District
according to the best of my ability.
according to the best of my ability.
You would sign them back and mark to the top. And first item, we are going to open up for nominations for Board of Education President. Bob, Rodney. Do I have a second to that one? Do we have any other nominations? All those in favor?
Thank you.
Motion carried. Next item, I will swear in your board president. I, Rodney George,
I, Rodney George,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution
that I will support the Constitution
of the United States
of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of New York,
and the Constitution of the State of New York,
and that I will faithfully discharge the duties
and I will faithfully discharge the duties
of President of the Avon Central School Board of Education
of President of the Avon Central School Board of Education
according to the best of my ability.
according to the best of my ability.
turn the meeting over to President George.
Okay, open it up for nominations for Board of Education Vice President. Or Jim? Have a second? A second? Oh, Beth, I'm sorry. Other nominations or okay? Any other nominations? Other nominations, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Anybody opposed? Abstain.
Okay. I will swear. I, Jim Cole,
I, Jim Cole,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution
that I will support
of the United States
the United States,
and the Constitution of the State of New York,
the Constitution of the State of New York,
and that I will faithfully discharge the duties
and that I will faithfully discharge the duties
of Vice President of the Avon Central School Board of Education
of Vice President of the Avon Central School Board
according to the best of my ability.
according to the best of my ability. Administration of officers. We're doing that three. Yeah, they just did that.
Motion here, all of these.
What numbers are you? Right, that's what.
So you've got the first one, this group here,
Sure.
all of this here.
So,
Yep.
item 3,
Yep.
4,
And then authorizations. Yep, we got designations, the next page. Authorizations,
6,
all the way
7,
to the, no, to this, wait till I'm
Okay.
Okay. Yep, you get to the mileage rate.
What?
Yep, yep.
And each one of these are separate.
Yeah.
Okay, gotcha.
Okay.
Yep. Okay, so if anybody has any questions on any of these, we'll try and do like we did last year, but if anybody has any questions on any of the items, we will take items 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 7. It's one motion. As you know, some of these people you will be swearing them in at their next time in, and so on. So take a look at those, see if you have any questions on any of those items. Otherwise, I'll entertain a motion to approve. Have a second? Beth? Okay, any questions on any of the items through item 7, 3 through 7? If not, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Passed 5-0. Okay, item 8, we need to appoint a legislative representative and alternate for the Genesee Valley School Board Association. Julie was, you were the, and Beth was the alternate. Who was the alternate? Beth. If you guys want to continue, or somebody else wants to do it?
This is different than the Genesee Valley School Board Association, correct?
No.
Or is this?
That's the Genesee Valley School Board Association. I know you're an elected official on there, but you're also our liaison for Avon.
Okay.
Yeah,
I wasn't sure if
although-
this was
I'll nominate
the
Julie.
voting
That's a dweeb.
delegate for this.
Yes.
spot.
Oh, that's different.
different.
That's
That's
different.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we have to have a motion.
Yep, but you can do them both, yeah.
Yeah.
So
So-
you nominate both.
All right, so, did you nominate?
I
Beth.
nominated Julie.
Okay. And I'm gonna do them both together. Someone gonna nominate Beth, or so somebody else.
I'll nominate that.
So we get two different.
So
I've got to do them separately. Right?
we'll do it.
Or Jim nominated Julie.
Or I could never go both up.
I
Great
heard
with that.
that's true.
Okay, so we have a motion. Bob, you want to second that motion? Okay. All right, any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, thank you. All right. Now, item 9, appointment of the voting delegate and alternate for the NISBA conference in October, if it is held. If it is not held, it will be done virtually, so we do need to have an appointment. So I'm not sure who did it last year. That's right, Bob was the key man. I mean, it's up to you guys how you want to do it. Who wants to be the alternate? Who wants to?
No, the alternate, no, I wasn't. I wasn't. I thought you were. No, wasn't it Jim?
I don't think. I was gonna say.
Who was the alternate?
I think it was Bob.
I think it was that.
I've never been called in, so.
Well, if Bob can't make it, then you.
Yeah, oh, I
you-
know, I understand,
Yeah.
I'm just saying I never.
Well, it is, the thing it is a commitment. If you can't make it, then you get other things planned, you end up having to go there to do the voting. Because,
Yeah.
Oh, I'm not sure.
I mean, because if you're concerned about that, the alternate, I think I could be the alternate, because I have to be there. In case Bob would be there. So I mean, just so I don't take away from you guys, I don't know if we can appoint two alternates or not. Yeah,
I'm good to be on.
who made that motion? Julie, Bob is the delegate, and Beth is the alternate. Right, we have a motion, do I have a second?
Awesome.
Jim? Further discussion, anybody else dying to get it? Not all those in favor say aye. Aye, opposed, pass 5-0. Okay, item 10. Okay, item 10 is the appointment of the district fiscal audit committee. That is people that are sitting on here, so I don't know how we make that motion.
Anybody can.
I'll make the motion. Someone want a second? Anybody want to drop out? You want to drop out?
No.
Well, the questions can be.
Yeah, you can. I mean, the board can appoint, an audit committee, except for we decided to appoint ourselves, because we know the finances and so on like that. I mean, if anybody ever wanted to drop out, we could appoint someone else. We usually look for a finance person that knows something. Okay, so I made the motion. Who made the second?
Bob.
Bob? All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Pass 5-0. Okay, and you need a motion to appoint a audit committee chairperson. Anybody want to make a motion?
Chip done. Anyone else?
I mean, I don't mind doing it. I've been doing it for a while and I'm fine. If anyone wants to do it, it's.
Someone make a motion, Jim? Beth, a second? Anybody second?
I did.
Oh, Julie? Yeah, we're still raising our hand, right? I'm not looking up. They can run the screen. Yeah. All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Is it item, is this separate to item 12?
All the way up to 18.
12 through 18. Okay, if you want that opportunity to take a look at that, but I'll entertain a motion to approve 12 through 18. Second, Beth. Anybody have any questions on any of those? Now, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed? Pass 5-0. Okay, item 19, resolution, I think for this story, we have to have 2 board members. The hearing officer, Authorize appointments of board members. I believe Julie was one of them last year. And Beth? You guys still good with it? You guys, anybody else care to do it? Julie's that. So, who wants to make the motion? Jim, second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? That's right. Item 20. You're gonna do 21, 22, 23. Okay, 20, 21, 22, and 23. I'll entertain a motion to approve.
Go ahead, Bob, I'll second.
Julie, any discussion or questions? There are none. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? That's 5-0. Okay, item 23. We just do 23? Should have done 23. We did do 23, yep. Okay, so that ends our organizational meeting, and we will open up the regular meeting. Is there any agenda changes to our regular meeting? Yeah. Okay, I need a motion to approve the Board of Education minutes for 6/24. Oh, I should have done these all together too. Okay, sorry. Items, I guess it's 25, 26, 27, and 28. I'll take as one motion. A second. Jim. Any discussion or questions on any of those? Not all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? That's 5-0. Okay, items 29. Item board discussion approval, the MOA and the ATA. So we'll turn this over to Ryan.
So the MOA for the ATA was we've been talking about the need for some additional medical support and the work that Katie Conroy has done over the last several months in helping the district, and really in some ways leading the district in the medical areas. So we're creating the department head position and then appointing her to the department head prorated from March 16th of this year and assigning her for the department head position for next year. So that was the ATA MOA. And then there's a contract negotiation after next year, and we'll also have more information about the pandemic at that point too, and be able to determine whether or not there's any need to approvals.
We have a motion to approve. Julie, a second. I don't even know if we needed to actually approve that. There should be a superintendent and ATA. All those in favor? Aye. Okay, and the next one is an MOA with CSEA, and that's the 4-day leave or something.
Pilot of the summer 4-day work week that we piloted with CSEA. We were able to come to an understanding with the Administrators Association and district individual contracts for piloting of a 4-day work week. It's 6 weeks. It's starting on Monday the 6th through Friday, August 14th. And the CSEA wanted to have the MOA established. So that's really all this is acknowledging the opportunity to pilot a 4-day work week for those who are interested. It was not forced on anyone. It's just people can opt in or continue to work under the general contract.
Anybody got any questions? Anyone wants to make a motion, please? Second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? That's 5-0. Okay, item C is the approval to accept the RFP results for the asphalt ceiling at the high school.
Routine work, part of the routine work with the high school parking lot to prepare the parking lot out here and to list. Tom looked at the bids. Kristen was involved in the bid process and was recommending.
That's not part of the project, that's separate.
Correct.
Do you get any questions? Make a motion to approve. Jim, a second. Beth. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Yes, 5-0. Okay, item D, annual review of, how, I thought we did this. I guess we didn't do all this one. Approval of 520 district, 55410 purchasing, competitive bidding and offering, 5411 procurement of goods, 5413 procurement uniform grant guidance for federal awards. Do you have a motion to approve those policies? Have a second? No. Any discussion or questions on this? Is a yearly thing. Okay. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Passed 5-0. Item E, discussion on the draft plan for the 2021 school year. Is we think it's going to be today.
Yeah. I'll send that around that way.
Just all three of them?
Yeah, you just take one.
Take one. Yes.
Jim Elliston.
I've seen it earlier.
So over the last couple of meetings, we've had some conversations about a variety of topics, from opening to going back to when we were meeting regularly, a curriculum presentation from Jackie and Christina, and the need for a Board of Education learning series. And at the last meeting, I was supposed to present the Board of Education learning series, and what I asked for instead was the opportunity to, instead of creating a bunch of individual plans, to have an opportunity to put some things on paper about everything that's happening in the district that we're being asked to respond to now, or that we know that we need to respond to in terms of long-term planning. So work just to kind of get a draft one-pager. I appreciate that I didn't need to have necessarily a book ready for this. I also subscribe to Mike Fullen's philosophy of, he has a quote of beware of fat plans. So I like one-pagers that are easy to take a look at. So in taking, I thought we'd just go one column at a time through the whole thing, just to get an understanding of what's happening and answer things in one bucket at a time. So under the short term, we have to have an opening plan for COVID-19. As we know, there's some information sessions happening around the state. We're awaiting guidance from the New York State Health Department, the Board of Regents, and as well as the Department of Education. So we will have to have a plan for opening. When we get more specifics, we'll be ready to move. What I'm thinking about in this is I did not want to have another committee, another task force. So as we've had more conversations, we have a district-wide safety plan, or a safety team that's in place to do some more routine safety planning. But I thought it made sense to ask that committee to be very involved with doing our opening. We will add membership to the committee, to the safety meeting, and try to do the work through subcommittees such as the transportation and nutrition, which Kristen would be the head of that particular group, and academic opening. So obviously the Jackie and Christina would be very involved with that, along with the principals. And then I'm asking Rob, I had floated to you, to co-facilitate that group with me. And he and I are going to meet when he returns from vacation on Tuesday to flesh this out a little bit more. But we did take the liberty of putting some dates on the calendar, and you can see those down below. It starts on the 16th, so hopefully after we get some guidance from the state, the 30th, and then from there every Thursday in the month of August. Thought we'd meet from 9 to 11 in the morning. We could add to this time or to take away from the time, but I thought that this would give us a chance to have committees come together, do some individualized work, pour through the documents and the resources that are coming out, be able to stay in step with what we need to do. All of it would be under the guise of under the umbrella of the district-wide safety team, doing the planning for the opening in a safe way in terms of looking out for the environmental factors as well as the educational factors that we're looking into this. So that seemed the most appropriate way to go forward from my perspective, and took the liberty of putting the items on the calendar so that we're ready for when the information starts flowing a little bit more quickly.
So just, so for those meetings, primarily safety, but then the educational piece will be like also kind of with the curriculum and how to execute curriculum, will kind of be those discussions taking place at that time.
Correct. So that would be a subcommittee doing the work. So the safety team would be running. Yep. And then there would be like an academic or instructional subcommittee that is also meeting probably at the same time, but may also schedule its own meetings to continue doing work that it needs to.
So do we not have to submit statement?
There hasn't been anything communicated to me just yet, anything in the portal that we have to submit yet. And I think that's tied to the fact that the state has not itself put out much guidance. I know that.
Floated around that July.
Yeah, flooding, yeah. GVAP at this point is still working at the, on coming up with a boilerplate template of items that need to be addressed at the BOCES level. The executive committee of the CSOs is working on boilerplate, but we don't have one.
Any other questions? See, so at our next meeting is in August. We will get an update again. Because we'll have at least 2 meetings or 3 meetings under the belt.
Three.
Three.
Meetings.
And obviously in the next 3 or 4 weeks or the month of July, hopefully we're going to get some more guidance on what we're going to be able to do and what we can't do and what we have to do. And whatever the governor says we have to do.
Right, and you know, as of yesterday, obviously,
Yeah, I was just saying, Florida just mandated by executive order that they will be brick and mortar in school starting in August. So it's hard to believe.
Explain that.
Brick and mortar, it means they're coming in the building. Or
So,
that's,
like, if
you know,
you feel safe sending your student to school, go to school.
no, it's up in the air whether they feel safe or not. But the Commissioner of Education put out, I didn't know that they have executive orders too, along with the governor, and it said they will report to school in August, brick and mortar. So you come in, they haven't given didn't say any guidelines, will they be wearing masks, will the desk be 6 feet, or I think they're waiting for the CDC to come out with a guidance for all schools, but that's,
Do you think that the governor is going to try to come out with a one size fits all, or? do you think
Our governor?
Yes.
I think they'll come out with some,
Or give it-
once I see, I think they'll come out with masks and desks and, different things like that.
Do you think it'll be per region? Like each region in New York, or you think it's going to be whatever's happening in New York City is what's going to be happening here?
yeah, I think personally, I think it's going to be more of a tight loose. There are going to be some critical expectations, and then there will be some leeway for districts to
Every building's different.
There's only-
You know, how you can do that, but how do you, and maybe we'll have to submit a plan and how are we going to meet this criteria? Whatever
And
criteria.
I understand what you're saying, because listening to all of those videos, each region definitely was very unique in terms of
Sure.
their concerns, their needs.
But that was the regions.
But I think that was, but even their statistics, I mean, the statistics of how many cases we've had up here versus what we've had down there is very, very different. And I think with that, I'm hoping that the governor is going to be looking at those statistics, because you can't really lump us in with New York City, where they have, hundreds of thousands of students, and we're small upstate
Oh, yeah.
New York, where, I
But
mean,
then-
we gotta look at our statistics, how many kids, how many adults, what's the breakdown, it's like, just making it realistic for our region.
They just don't know how that New York State will become, all their own different little states will be educated better than other regions will be, and they'll all catch up at some point.
I guess I was thinking in terms of even transportation, like.
Oh, yeah,
When
yeah.
you look at the current CDC guidelines, that's what people are concerned about, is we don't have enough physical space to do that in our classrooms.
Right.
We don't have enough buses or a schedule that would provide us to social distance kids on the bus. And so I know that's why you have those breakout subcommittees.
Yeah, I think part of it is just an issue of governance for New York State. It's we have a state, we have BOCES that are organized by, some are set by regions. We also have school districts that believe in local control. And so it's going to be, like, part of that is just the infighting that's going to take place in terms of whose decisions are these. So I suspect that the governor is going to be tight on some criteria, and then there will be some leeway to focus at the individual level. I would say it's probably not in our best interest to completely focus on the individual level. It's probably best for us to stay in step with some of what's happening regionally through the BOCES. But yet, we all have a county health department. So, like, part of the issue for New York is the governance methods. I think we'll be able to make some smart local-based decisions. And whether local means right at the school level or at the regional level, I think we'll be able to do that. I think there's also probably going to be some things that we just have to simply adhere to, whether we think that makes sense or not.
Well, yeah, and I agree with that. I'm not saying let's not go with that, but as much as we can, go regional, making some of those decisions where we're allowed to. I think that, and I think the team will not agree with that, but we just want to make sure that we're not, cookie cuttering in New York City where, they have a whole different gamut of issues that they gotta face. We're upstate New York with a small population and, looking at Livingston County's numbers, I think we gotta take all of that into account, not just, and I agree, we gotta follow what the governor says and not asking us to break out of that, but just being, as you're saying, prudent as we move forward to make sure that we're, following the mandates, but also then incorporating
Right.
our region.
Make it our own, whatever we can make our own, we can make our own. We have,
Right.
we have no choice in the mandate, but how we do it, how do we
Sure.
social distance, how do we do 6 foot? I mean, we submit a plan and how we want to do it.
Yeah.
Hopefully, whoever we submit it to says, yep, that meets the criteria. And we don't have to be like, Albany, we don't have to be like somebody else, we see, our little school districts, different opportunities.
Yeah, but our plan, I think it would be in our best interest for our plan to look very similar to Paris, like for instance, or just.
Yeah,
Right.
we're all,
In the same region.
okay, because, it helps a lot, it helps financially too, so if you're all gonna do one thing one way, you got the consortium, you get your different things, so I think that's the right way to go.
Yeah, and from the beginning, maybe you've heard me say once or twice, like, my philosophy around this has been, I want to be comfortably in the pack. I don't want to be out ahead of anyone on this because unfortunately a lot of those, it feel good to make those plans, but then ultimately something changes and it becomes a waste of time. And I also don't want to be bringing up the rear, the last to respond. So that's been my goal, is to kind of let others sort of clarify where the boundaries are and where to light the landing strip, so to speak, and then we will go there as quickly and decisively as we can.
So I'm assuming, because I don't know, that the superintendents in this region are collaborating as they make these plans about how you're doing it, what you're doing, maybe where you could, like in this shortcut, for lack of a better word, where somebody had a really good idea with this, we can, take that and share, collaborate, and how to make that fit for.
Yep, and the superintendents are meeting every Thursday via Zoom, Thursday or Friday via the Zoom. We have a 10 o'clock call. And that's where the executive committee is coming up with the boilerplate kind of approach. In the absence of them formally coming up with a boilerplate, Daryl and Perry seems to be that person who puts out a lot of great information and is very generous in sharing with the region. So there's a lot of healthy communication that takes place.
So where does Kevin McDonald fall into this? Like how does that fit?
So Kevin is the liaison of the state, tries to keep us informed of the information that's coming from the state and various agencies from the state. He also has the responsibility of coordinating our efforts as a region. And he advocates for certain coordination, but he also allows us leeway to where some people think it's better for them to go in a different direction than they do with it. So he tries to just make sure that we are always communicating, so if we're doing something differently, we know why.
And it's probably a great point of reference too, like questions or something like that sort of.
Yep.
That's great. That's really neat to hear.
Yeah, and he's got a challenge because he works with 22 different superintendents who work with really 5 different county health departments, even though it's 4 different people. So that was a challenge early on because what Livingston County was doing was different than maybe where Wyoming County was, and so that was one of the challenges, trying to get schools on the same page as we move forward. And I think getting on the same page is important, but like you said, to your point, you don't want to be cookie cutter in the approach, just doing something because somebody else is. But at the same time, you can't be so scattered and you're doing something different just because you have to communicate.
Yeah.
So Kevin has really done a masterful job, I think, of making sure that we're communicating, leading on the items where we can make a common decision around, but also just keeping people informed when there might be some variance in the decisions that we make.
I'm sure you've talked about that and have heard from, through the state meetings and things like that. So when you're looking at the key stakeholders, will there be, because everything that I've listened to, I've asked about like community members or parents and students, are you looking for them on this or not?
So there are required stakeholders for the safety team, and so some of that does involve some additional community members. But there are some ad hoc memberships that I did want to talk about. So, for example, like keeping the Board of Education informed of what's going on, would it be beneficial to have the Board of Education representative working with that group? I know that Beth and I have had some conversations about some of what she's been reading in terms of how that's being posted. I'm open to having a Board of Education member added to the district safety team for the sake of these summer planning meetings. But I wanted that to be a discussion, not just something that I said. And I will do my best to keep the board informed as we go through the Board of Education meetings and through my weekly communications.
We have that from the community, which means a lot of coach and that can experience that would be very beneficial if you think that's wrong. I would be interested.
You good with that, Beth? Okay. You got your liaison for the board. Thanks, Beth.
Great. So the next column is, we talked a little bit about the curriculum destination 23, CD23. This is, so the curriculum is written, but it exists in a variety of completion areas. So different departments and different grade levels have different approaches. We have e-doctrina, and this effort is around getting it in a systematic way into e-doctrina. So over the next couple of years, getting it into e-doctrina. So Jackie and Christina are already working on this. They met with, before we departed for the year, they met with grade level teams and department level teams around communicating the timeline, the work that's to be done over the next couple of years. And this is just something that is already on the plate. I just thought I would add it here. It's part of a great deal of academic work that needs to be happening. So if you're looking down the column, I think the headings are pretty self-explanatory. The thing that's different is when you get down to the italicized information. So some of this has been work that we've talked about a little bit with the redefinition of Luke Weaver's position, the addition of the integration specialist to advance the one-on-one. We need to be, the state is asking us to, in a systematic way, address the benchmarks related to social and emotional learning. There's a math steering committee that's just part of the academic work that's already happening. So all of this column is a variety of academic items. The curriculum destination 23 is the larger umbrella, and then some of these will fit underneath that, but some of them will also just need to be articulated as their own plan. But this is the slate of academic effort that we need to be making this year. And so a lot of the dates for this will be to be determined, because they're obviously going to be tied to what we are allowed to do in terms of the school year opening.
The 180 seat days will be something that comes from the governor in terms of how we're going to move that 180 seat days for students. Whether it's
or whether or not it will be met.
Yeah, he has to give us something, so it's less than 180 days. He has to do some program.
Yeah, he has to give us the approval, it's going to be less than 180 days.
Otherwise,
Or
we have to
we
figure
need
out how
session.
we get
Or
the
we
session.
need a session.
That's for state.
So he'll come up with guidelines on how you virtually teach and take seat attendance of kids that show up or don't show up.
No, that's probably more of a local decision about how we take attendance or don't take attendance. But all of that needs to be under the guidance that comes with, are we going to do brick and mortar school, or is it going to be some combination of hybrid, or is it going to be fully online? So that decision has to be made first, and then we can figure out how to meet the criteria, whatever would be in place. So 180 days is, obviously it's about learning, and the right amount of time for learning, and there's Carnegie units and all that sort of thing. It's also about sticking.
And you also have to have so many days in between holidays, testing, for testing, you have to have so many days, so, like, just trying to add that other holiday that's going right in the middle of the regions, if that holiday gets added in June. So, I mean, anything like that affects the whole school year, the whole calendar, they do it, so we have to get that first, then they can set this up, but then I think they also have to keep in mind that this holiday is trying to push through June 17th, 19th. If that comes through, then they have to back up their testing, and that may affect our weeks off that we have for this spring break. You may not be able to have full week spring break, or you may have to back it up because of some of these things.
Like this past June?
Yeah, so.
Yeah, but that wasn't it, because that was he created that himself. So it's only for state employees who get a state check. But he's trying to have the legislature pass that. Legislation passed that as a New York State holiday. At least a New York State holiday he's pushing for. And it may become a federal holiday. but they're talking about doing away with Columbus Day.
Yeah, so all that's, like, if that gets plumped into what is usually the testing week, then that'll have implications for the testing schedule, which we'll still, by contract, need to get our 186, 186 days in,
Yeah.
186 for Avon, and then 180 is the requirement for the state.
Before June 3rd.
Correct.
By contract.
And are
So-
so would they consider it virtual learning? Longer days?
That's
Is-
more or less that's what they did this year.
Yeah, but they did this year.
Yeah, they exempted the 180, but you
Right.
still had to be doing instruction. You couldn't say you're done. So that type of executive order will need to guide what we do in terms of calendar. So that's the, for lack of a better term, the academic work that's slated for this year. One thing that I'm excited about is the math steering committee that Christina and Kathy have already put together. Reaching out and working with GPEP on that, on an existing opportunity. So they're excited. We started out as K-8. That's been one of the conversations we've been having is how do we organize to do our academic work? Is it by building? Is it K-6? Is it 7-12? Is it K-8 and then 9-12? Different content areas have operated differently, and that's just something that I think in some small ways gets in our way in terms of trying to manage a number of different systems. So that's something we're looking to try to clarify. So I'm excited that this is a K-12 math.
Because sometimes it was different by building because of just the time, the setting.
Sure, yeah.
So before had a math committee and then department heads would work with Christina in terms of the 5 through 12.
So how do you do teacher accountability? Like with regards to teachers actually having class, students showing up, follow through. I mean, Thomas had, 2 classes once a week, twice a week for 10 minutes, and the rest of the staff didn't have meetings with him at all. As a parent, I understand we were in a pandemic and people were scrambling, but how do we make sure education is happening and that that's being followed up and followed through with? I just, I know it was a scramble the first 6 to 8 weeks, but then we went into the longer term and there still was not, much follow-up from myself and our students. And that's concerning. I don't want to go into junior year and he's not getting the academics that he needs to thrive in the next year.
So it sounds like what you're talking about is the work of the academic committee back in the column around COVID-19. So if we're in a distance learning model, is what I think I'm hearing you ask about.
I'm just asking, as far as teachers, versus teachers just getting an email and here's 7 things of homework that we expect to do on Monday, but there's no connection with the student. They're not meeting with the students, they're not meeting with their class,
So if we're teaching in a distance model,
Yes.
is what you're saying. Yeah. So if we're doing that, so that this is the more traditional academic work that's our, so it's the longer term kind of more business as usual academic work that we're doing. So I think we're concerned about continuing to deliver instruction, monitor, stay connected to students. That's part of the academic subcommittee of the COVID-19 work, which is that first one.
Will that group be getting the information from your surveys that you
Yes.
were coming to
Yep.
this year?
Students log in to do their work, that's how we would know if they're actually doing it.
And then more with the connectivity of the teacher to the student, that they're making that face-to-face connection virtually every week. If they're not reaching out and making that connection, then it's very hands-off. I mean, it's just, here's a load of work, get this done, turn it in. But I felt during the pandemic that face-to-face once a week, even if it was once a week for 10 minutes, to say, hey, how's my class? How are you guys doing? There wasn't that form. I know people were scrambling, so it's not a finger pointing thing, but as a parent, you're trying to get your kid ready for a junior year, senior year, that's just, it was weak in that regard. To have just 2 staff members reaching out, making that connection with your student for 10 minutes twice a week, and he's got 5 or 6 teachers
And
that,
actually teaching is what I heard you
he
say.
reported to every single day, and now we've only got 2 staff members reaching out twice a week for 10 minutes. It was kind of saddened me because I'm thinking of the students that don't have that connection, and the school is their connection. So that is a concern as not only a parent, but as a board, I think we want to make sure that the students are receiving that connection and add-on, especially with all of the work we've done with our circles and making those connections is very important, to the school community.
So the connection may be in separate committee that starts to go into more social emotional learning.
Yes.
So I'm hearing what you're saying on that. I think we do need to get some guidance first before they can actually do the planning around that. And I also think we've collected a great deal of information from students and from faculty,
Sure.
and now we have over 140 responses now from parents, and we'll be able to prioritize some of that information, and that'll inform the efforts that we make going forward, what needs to be clarified. But it needs to be clarified at the state level, and then to some extent, some of that will need to be clarified at the local bargaining level also, as far as local connection. So I think we've covered the COVID-19 column, and then the curriculum destination 2023, along with some of the other academic work that will, some of it will fit under the curriculum destination work, and some of it will be standalone. So moving to the middle column, mental health review, we had some conversations around this. Actually, you were having conversations with John Brown about this before I started. So going back to Rob Leakey and Casa Trinity, when he left, we did not fill that contract. Instead, the principals opted to ask for a .4 staff member. We went through a hiring process. We identified a successful candidate. Unfortunately, she did not have the school social work certification at the time, so we did an individual contract that got us through the rest of this year, and the intention was to do it again next year while we review how we deploy our mental health staffing services. So I talked briefly, for example, we have a K-8 counselor and a 5-8 counselor. We have 2 counselors at the high school level. We have a social worker only at the middle school level, and then a contract social worker from an outside agency, as well as a contract social worker from the county, who we thought we were going to have for another year, but because of the pandemic, we lost services of Donna heading into next year. So before all of this happened, we started to look at the need for a mental health review to take a look at how we're deploying those resources and how we should align those resources, trying to stay current with the social and emotional learning benchmarks that existed already, the mental health literacy benchmarks. So that was in the works beforehand, and we're just continuing it. We're just starting with the consultant this summer. Is where that comes into play. So that Maureen Thayer is the consultant. She will be working with not only the social workers and the counselors and psychologists, but also the nurses and anyone who's providing health instruction. So there are health teachers where there's a health course, but some health instruction is also addressed through the physical education classroom. Some is also addressed by classroom teachers. So it's trying to get all of that information together to make sure that we're deploying our resources most appropriately. So that one was already in the works. Strategic planning and Alabriva. So over through the Facebook Lives and through some Board of Education meetings, I've communicated kind of the current standing with the Legacy Project and my conversations with Robert Hendrick about the Legacy Project and his feeling that that data is old and COVID-19 will play too much of a role. That his recommendation was that we not continue. He said that he would put together a final statement for me after 3 times reaching out to him to try to get the final statement. I have not received it, so I think we should probably just move on from him at that point. And he was advocating that we not continue, so it's not a situation where he's upset with Avon for not continuing. I think it's just, my feeling is he's done this.
He's not going to reimburse us.
What's that?
He's not going to reimburse us.
He's been paid for the work that he's done to this point.
We deserve that. See?
I think it's a one-pager that says we should go along in another direction. So I don't think it's worth our time trying to pursue to get that statement. Unless you think that's the biggest priority for me.
I don't think it's a big priority. I just think we could rely on him and we deserve that wrap-up statement from him from goods delivered.
Yeah, I think we have the data, and that's probably more important than the statement. I think he verbally communicated how he feels, and he's not been responsive. So I think it's the most cost-effective thing we should do is to move forward. But we will take that data, and the community stakeholder information that we collected, We'll continue to add to it with month-end entry plan data that I've collected. And then I've reached out through a couple of different sources to try to do some homework around possible consultants. And I landed on Dr. Nicole Aliota from Alabriva. She is working with Keshua and Cornell over the last couple of years. She's done a variety of survey and strategic planning work with higher education. And through my first initial contacts and conversations with her, I think she has a nice style. I think she is a very good facilitator and will do a nice job of hearing where we're at and helping us to move forward in the creation of a strategic plan. She has a tool that she uses to survey, so it would involve going back and doing surveys in the community again. She would do interviews with stakeholder groups and also do with stakeholders as well as focus group with community members who are not otherwise affiliated with the district or some of the other memberships. So that would be entering a contract with her to begin working with us this summer through the fall of next year, and then producing the strategic plan through the winter, and then refining it towards the spring of next year. Is the plan. I emailed, and Maya has been in contact about the possible kickoff of this information session on the 16th from 2 to 4. I think it worked for everybody, but Jim, sorry about that, Jim. I know the 23rd was the other possible date that she could do it, and we ran into a lot of conflicts with the leadership team. So I'm hoping it's okay that we move forward and then keep in the loop on that.
I'll see what I can do.
Yeah, I understand.
That's all the time. You get the
So from there,
It's something new that you can. It's good. Yes.
So are we gonna put together kind of a statement for the community about this, because they invested a lot of their time and energy into Robert Hendricks as well. I mean, we had a big consortium with the admin, we had a lot of stakeholders that took their time and energies into it. We had people, I'll speak for me, I've had people asking me where we at with this. And to just say, well, Robert, didn't want to respond or didn't want to get back to us. I feel like we need some sort of a wraparound to kind of to complete the circle so that people understand where we're at in the process and how we're going to complete the process.
Yep, I think that's really important. I don't want to do that. Well, first of all, I think I did do that in my communications with the board in previous meetings and on the Facebook Live presentation. So I think I've given the update about the legacy project and the plan to move forward using the entry plan data, and collecting additional information through the leadership team survey, and working with a future consultant. I think that has been communicated, but I agree with you. If you're on the same page with moving forward, and I'll agree that for the 16th, I think we can put together a communication that says, here's what we're doing, communication at the time. But I don't want to do that yet until we have that kickoff meeting with the administrative team and the leadership team being in the same room together. I'm just being blunt. I think what entry plan revealed to me is that there was mixed buy-in in working with Robert after the initial conversations. When I have a number of entry plan interviews with a variety of teachers and staff, I don't think there was a great deal of buy-in. So I want to make sure that the board and leadership team are in step with us moving forward with the process that we're doing.
Let me just make one suggestion. I know you said you reached out 2 or 3 times. Could you just one more time reach out to them and ask them that, we really need some kind of final, even if it's a 1-pager. I think that'll make the rest of the board somewhat comfortable. If he comes back and says, it doesn't do anything, then we're out, but reach out one more time. That's good. And meanwhile, I don't think it'll hold up anything. We need to keep moving. But you had something to
No,
I was talking,
that's why I
sorry.
said, no.
Well, I know he's reached out 3 times, and I can understand the frustration that we're getting, but let's give it one more shot and see if we can do it. And, see if he can at least, agree to just send us a statement that, where his feelings, whatever it is, whatever he can send us, we appreciate it.
When we get to that point, and because William explained it here, and we have the kickoff meeting, then something on our website, I know you said you shared it with us and Facebook Live, but currently it's still the first thing people see when we're podcast. So after the kickoff, then per se, that would be a good time to do all your communication and website, whoever else you're communicating.
Yep, and I also want it to be collective. So if when we do the meeting with Nicole, if people aren't feeling it, I think it would be important for us to make sure that we're building the right foundation at the very beginning of the process. So I think once we have that set, it will be very important to communicate with clients. So I will be happy to reach out again. And so I think the exciting part of that is as we move forward with whatever consultant it is, what I would like to do is be deliberate. If you look down in the middle of the essential actions, I think I want to be deliberate in having that work, that data and work move to be connected to the shared decision-making team and have them have a role in doing that work. I think that was also an interesting dynamic. That's part of my entry, that shared decision-making wasn't formally a part of that group, where I seem like that's a good place to do the long-term planning district. So that's the strategic planning with Alabreva. Can I answer any other questions? I'm excited about that, by the way. I think we have great information from the legacy planning project. A lot of good data was collected. I think it created a need for looking forward in a very positive way. I think my entry interview, I collected a lot of pretty good information. I think that will be informative. And then I'm excited that the leadership team was working really hard to try to come up with a survey, and it's not what we do. Like, we're not survey writers. There are people who do this for a living, and they do facilitation for a living, and then try to do it as an add-on when we're facing a pandemic just started to feel like a lot. So I think to get that expertise and to have the information collected over from a variety of sources over a couple of year period, I think it'll just be a rich process that'll help us really establish a strong plan. So I know there was some frustration there for a little bit, but I'm actually excited about where we're at and the possibility of moving forward.
So, I think, looking at the past, move forward, because everything's changed. So, just kind of put all the new stuff on top, and so move forward.
And then it'll be a nice opportunity to combine some of the things that we're already moving towards with what we have to now respond to at the same time.
There's more, because everything's changed. So it's like,
Have a plan, but be able to react. That's a good approach. And then the last column that we've been talking about is the Board of Education, for lack of better words, I want to call it the Board of Education Learning Series. We had some conversations about formats and some possibilities about topics to be broached. So I listed the topics, just different things that we heard: communication protocols, norms and agreements, crisis management, role clarification, budget primer, I forget whatever is supposed to be the right way to say that. The mental health overview, keeping you informed about what's going on with that review, and then just a guidance around strategic planning in general. What are the steps that are involved there? Those are possible topics for discussion at a to be determined schedule. The idea is to cultivate collaboration and leadership. I thought that I'd be happy to co-plan this with someone if somebody wants to be involved with laying it out. Rodney, I thought you'd be, I think Julie, you're going to be involved with the shared decision making. Rodney, you and I talked about, we communicate regularly anyway. I don't know if you want to be involved with planning those types of activities, or.
Of course, I'll get feedback from all you guys.
Yep, and I don't need to eliminate Jim and Bob. I'm sorry about that. If it feels that way, it's not my intention. Then we could refine those topics and identify facilitators. I thought this was interesting. So I reached out to learn a little bit more about facilitation. I know Lisbeth has had some folks. I know we've worked, I think, with Jim Thompson in the past. Here, has done some work with the board. I talked to Kevin McDonald, and Kevin said that he's also, depending on what we want to do, he's also done some work and has some familiarity working with you. And he said, he'd be happy to come do some of this, like around role clarification, communication. That's something that he has done for other districts and other boards. But he also said he's not going to be offended if we want to go a different direction and work with business. So
I've been to see him for a while.
Yeah.
4 months.
4 months. You're on 4 months now. So I left it with him that we would have the conversation. I did schedule some dates that I want to have a conversation about too. If you look down at the possible dates, these correspond to the 7/16. I consider that a connection. That's the kickoff meeting actually already. And then the other dates are on existing board meeting times. And I think we have to clarify when we want to meet as a board heading into the year. And then I thought it might be better to just have a longer night rather than fill up other nights, but I'm certainly open to going back to the drawing board on dates. But if we typically meet at 6, maybe we would meet from 4 to 5:45 for the learning series, and then go into a meeting at 6, or flip that, have a meeting at 4, and then move into the learning series at 5 o'clock. If you'd rather do it on Saturdays, I'm open to that. If you'd rather do it, a series of 1 days, we can try to do that also. I thought we said at the last meeting that some smaller chunks of learning might be the best way to go.
And I like the 4 to 5:45 learning, and then the very reason I say that, I mean, okay, either way, but we want the public to have at least have the opportunity to be able to come for a meeting, no, they don't come. That's why we always had it 7, we moved it to 6, and said at least they can come if they want to come. 4 to 5:45, that's our 4 to 6 is our meetings. Unlike now, if we're in-house, then we ought to have those meetings start at 6.
Two points, or are you done with her?
I am not, but I would just have to make arrangements.
Oh, you're not done it, Paul?
Well, I'm down at the pool around.
Okay.
So around is a good.
Well, so we need to check with you on the dates.
We need to just make sure on those kids.
Because maybe we do 4:30 and
Yeah.
start at 6.
And if I know in advance who I can arrange, just make sure it's
Wake them up early, make them go
work
early.
around it, yeah. Or I could use time. I can figure it out. And again, we're not talking about, it's not every.
Yeah, not every.
It's
So most of them are in August, and so the other 2 in October, and so you probably could hit the others, so it doesn't involve like audit meeting that we did 5, or wouldn't be a building tour or anything like
I
that.
didn't, no, I was trying to get it done earlier in the year to avoid some nuisance.
So I don't know if we mean these dates are in concrete.
Yep.
But those are board meeting nights, so we have to move one because of, we can't do one because of something. We can always keep moving it up. I think what you guys are asking for is just an ongoing thing, and we're gonna continue, as we get going, what else we wanna sit down and learn or something. Not every board meeting, obviously, but I don't know how often these are, but something we'll do all throughout the year.
But one of the things we did, maybe it's just like you said, we add to it was just our goals, is it a word? So I didn't see that mentioned. I don't know how it fits in with your goals and sharing that with us. I don't have as much years experience, and it was only that 1 year with Dr. Johnson. His goals, I don't know if that's something you've done with other superintendents, or if that will continue. I don't know.
I agree, that was a topic we did talk about, being important, our goal setting, and even the self-evaluation, that whether we used in this process, but that's something that I think we did embrace that at one point, to say we'd like to personally look at ourselves, and so that we have a tool, right, for our own accountability.
And I think that it fits in nicely with you. I think we kind of held off on our goals because it only makes sense to have them in conjunction
Right.
with you,
And with the strategic planning, that those pieces of it, that
It's hard getting those arrows, man. Those arrows are all over the place.
so that's related to that, I didn't see that.
Goals were something that Kevin did mention. That's something that was, he has some materials that he goes to. I'm not advocating for Kevin, but I thought that might be a nice place to start. I know that Elizabeth does some of the services also. I've never
We all know
done this,
Kevin. I mean, we've used Kevin quite a bit, and I always feel well. You can always take a shot. If you don't like them, you can always go different people along the way.
And that's kind of what, and I think that's more, that's kind of what I'm thinking, like maybe to get it started, we go with Kevin into something that he's familiar to us, and we talk through some of the materials that he's done with, around communication under crisis, or something that he really advocated that we take a look at. I know he has some materials around goal setting. And then future items would be maybe different facilitators, where we identify a future need and we keep moving with somebody else. So not saying that Kevin would be the only person that we work with, but it might be a way to get started on, about a month about that.
Do you have, I wonder is, in terms of some of these particular topics, personally, it'd be great to think about where we are with our goal, just to start off the year. So I just didn't know if there was a particular topic you were hoping to start with.
Yeah, I mean, I
Serious?
think the communication protocols and working agreements and that sort of thing, place to start. I think that's in just like good
Yes.
kind of soft skills around teams and working together.
And then if we're talking about new goals or whatever, and you need to set new goals for this year, starting the new year, we want to think about goal setting and, sooner than later. Yeah. Or just review what we have.
And then the other thing that was in here, so Rodney and I will be working together on it, and it's a fluid situation, so I want it to be responsive to the needs that we've already identified and or that emerge as we start working.
Fun, we also wrote down, staying fun.
on That's what part of it. So I've taken some notes around some things that I need to do to address some of this, maybe to clarify some of it. I have listed Beth is going to be the point person with the board in terms of the COVID-19 planning. Julie, I know that you'll be involved in the shared decision-making team, and I'm going to work with Rodney to outline what the series might look like, what the learning series might look like. So that started as a one-pager of everything that's going on, and then we can continue to develop some finer plans. Sure. Sound like that move forward with?
Do you feel like you have to, like at a meeting, update us on these things, or just as necessary?
I think that's necessary. Yeah. There might be a particular dedicated time where we look at here's what's happened with the mental health review. And we might want to do that as a sheet. Part of that contract is a verbal report, so whether it's to just the leadership team or do it at a board meeting, then we can make a decision. What's that?
Not in the book.
Yes, there is.
I think that
Yeah, question? Good with it, good start, and we'll see where we go, and I mean, it's a living document, moving document, if we have to, change along the way or decide what we want to do or something, I'm sure Ryan's gonna, to it.
And so the leadership team will see.
Yes. I don't think that, I mean, did this in the market, was this helpful?
Very
Yeah, very helpful.
Okay, before we adjourn, I was gonna do one more, quick roundtable. Julie, I know you have something that you may have to say, a granny, a brand new granny, congratulations.
Thank you.
So you tell us
Thank you, Howard.
about your baby, how
Thank you.
everyone well, doing well?
So,
That's good. Anything else for us? Beth?
No, I did, you know what Chris Goodman checked in about this? I didn't get a chance to look through this. Does that impact us at all? The parking track, big circulation?
It could. It came up in the conversation, that probably the biggest extent was the possibility of extending out here, but.
It's been going on for years.
Yeah.
But as on the village board, we talked about extending Clinton Street.
Clinton to Halbar.
Yeah.
No, I'm sorry.
Oh, Bridge.
That was really the conversation. That's-
Sure, they'll let me know.
Yes.
Bob?
I think everybody previous graduations of the work. A lot to me. Like this can do that. A lot to me, I'm sure all the parents probably have to go and go in. Kind of be different. Thanks. Good.
Mr. Lee?
organizing all that.
It's good.
I don't have anything, it's just to thank everyone again for your support. I will hobble out of here. Well, I won't hobble, I'll ride out of here. I can't hobble, I can't put any pressure on.
Don't you need to stay off of ladders? That's the last time before was your children, right?
I knew it would come. You don't know how many people already told me.
Oh, sorry about that.
Sean Rebecca said, what? Stay up the ladder, you fell off the other one. Yep, I think my ladder days are done. At least for a year now.
So you heal up.
Yeah. Okay, if no one else has anything, I will entertain a motion to adjourn. Second, Jim, all in favor? Aye. So we are adjourned. Thank you, everyone, for coming.
Hi, thank you for everything, always having everything
Yeah.
ready to go and organized and.
Last minute.
Approve your call.